Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of Building With You Live, the show where we sit down with folks from DTC brands and build a branded chatbot with them live. I'm your host, Sean, with your co-host, Tyler, also the guy who will be building the bots live. Ryan, it's a pleasure to have you.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So Ryan's the co-founder and CMO of Tru Earth, and he was basically the first person who pioneered the category of eco-friendly laundry detergents. Since then, he's done over $100 million in sales and grown Tru Earth to mid eight figures. Ryan, thank you again and so much for being guest one on the show. It's an absolute honor to have you here.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
Yeah. So would you be able to tell us a little bit about your story and how Tru Earth came to be?
Yeah, so it was we launched the brand in April of 2019, but leading up to it, I've been in e-commerce or different media spaces for since probably around 2013, 2014, but I've been tied to digital marketing in some capacity since the late 90s. But prior to this, we had a couple of different subscription boxes and subscription products. And I had a few young kids, and I was kind of like going through a phase after I had my kids where I was like worried about what the future was going to be like for them. And I kind of started like, leaning into the idea that like, this is probably not a good thing to lean into, but like things like is AI going to take their jobs? Is there going to be like overpopulation of the planet? Is global warming coming? Just random anxieties that, I didn't have a lot of control over. And I was mostly just being nervous about what the world was going to look like for them in the future. And we were watching an episode of Ryan's World before my third kid was born. I have three kids now, and it was back in 2018. And they opened this like plastic treasure chest that was wrapped in plastic. It was like that big. It was huge, and inside of it was like two rows. And the first row, there were like all these little like plastic balls that were wrapped in plastic with surprise dopamine bomb toys inside of them. And then on the second row, again, it was the exact same thing again. And by the time they finished opening all this crap up, there was this heaping pile of plastic garbage. And like all of the toys were also plastic. And I was sitting there thinking like, man, like the consumerism that this world's producing with like, these dopamine hit toys, everything's about dopamine, social media, even like, purchases now. And I was looking at the amount of plastic waste that was there, and I'm like, man, that is a lot of plastic. And I just started thinking about other things that also had plastic in them. And we had been presented with an opportunity with this product earlier that year. And I was like, man, I wonder how much plastic comes from laundry detergent and cleaning supplies. And when I looked into it, it was like the US, I think it's like the EPS or one of the governing bodies in the US said that there's about 700 million plastic laundry jugs per year that end up in landfills, which is crazy. And that takes, 500 to 1,000 years to decompose. So I, talked to my partners that I had the other businesses with, and we decided to try the product out. It wasn't like Alibaba or something like that. It was with the patent holder had pitched us. And we tried it out. We thought it was great. And we were hoping that we'd be able to sell 100 subscriptions in the first month. That would kind of be our yay or nay on whether we continue forward with this. And we sold more than 1,500 in the first month. And that was, that started the path to doing this. And now we like measure our success with how many plastic containers we kept out of landfills or provided alternatives that have been purchased that by virtue of buying an alternative, it's keeping the original plastic packed version out of landfills, as well as like how many loads of laundry we donate to those in need. So it's been a pretty crazy journey. That was a 5-minute summation of 4 years.
But it's crazy to think about how much plastic actually gets wasted because we use it so often in our daily lives. Unless you specifically take notice, it's very easy to neglect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think people don't realize like some of the issues with plastic. Like, sure, it doesn't break down, or it turns into like microplastics or whatever. And what happens is like they get into the biggest issue outside of just piling up garbage everywhere is the plastics get into the water, and then they act as an insulator, which prevents the water from being able to, like, it raises, as more plastic gets in the ocean, it prevents the ocean from being able to bring the temperature back down. And the ocean is part of like the ecosystem of keeping the earth at its consistent temperature. So the more plastic that gets in the ocean, the worse it is for the general natural air conditioning of the planet to be able to do its thing.
That's interesting.
Wow. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so we realized that entrepreneurship has always been this glamorized as this shiny thing that anyone can hop in and make tons of money with. Like in TikTok, whether on YouTube, like you see tons of gurus saying like, hey, screw the education, right? Screw the education system. Just become an entrepreneur, become your own boss, leave the 9 to 5, and you'll be able to make 6-7 figures so easily. But we find that what's often neglected is that social media consists of highlight reels as well as survivorship bias. Do you have any hard times as an entrepreneur, and how did you personally get over those hard times?
Oh yeah, tons of them. And like one other thing to add to that too is that, you know, it's like the 1% of people who are super outgoing and want to are all right with the attention that are the ones that are advertising everything on social media, right? Like it's people who are introverted or comparing themselves to somebody that's out there wanting that attention and is thriving in it. So it's like, it might be good for that person, but you know, like that doesn't mean that it's going to make somebody happy that doesn't like that same level of, like, you know, eyeballs. But I have problems all the time. I still have problems. Like it's not like entrepreneurship is definitely not a magic pill. And it's, man, I'll tell you for sure that it's not for everybody. There's a lot of times where things aren't good. There's a lot of times where things are great. But I actually was writing a post last night about this. Like, you know, when you're on top of the world, especially when you're young, like when I had quite a bit of success when I was like 24, 25. And I thought, oh, I'm going to retire in like 2 years. And like my grandparents were like, oh, you're buying a place. Like what happens if your business slows down? Like, oh, I'll just make more money. And I see it a lot, like on Twitter and on social media, like younger guys who, you know, they've hit one home run and they think that their first swing was a home run, and they think that every other swing after that's going to be a home run too. And they're kind of cocky, and they, you know, they haven't been humbled. So it's like when you're at the top, everything seems amazing and it feels like you're invincible. But as soon as you lose it all, like you get massive perspective on what you should value and like how you should behave to other people, because you're not as smart as you think you are. You're not as awesome as you think you are. And when you feel the bottom, you'll realize it. But you know, I've had a few things completely collapse. I used to have a ringtone subscription business in like 2000, back when that was a thing, at mid 2000s, and then that collapsed, and we had to start a business. And it was based on content creation, like articles and stuff like that, and people contributing them to this platform. And it was such a slow growing platform. Like it wound up growing at 50 million searches a month, but there was a point where I bought a house. I had another condo here in Vancouver, and I had this house, and I couldn't sell the condo because it was 2008 when everything was crashing. And I had a really expensive car payment because I was stupid and, you know, thought that everything was going to be forever. And I had to go and start selling cell phones at the mall. And like, this is a guy that thought that he was king, whatever word you want to put there. I thought I was like, my ego was there. And I was so embarrassed that I had to go and do something at the mall that like, I would see people and I would go and hide in the back. And the lesson I got from that, like I wound up going to there's like a training after you start a new job, and they were teaching me how to use their sales systems. And I didn't really know sales before that. So I remember having this moment when I was there and thinking like, okay, you're here, you might as well embrace learning how to do sales. And I wound up actually, the second year that I was there, just from like listening to what they taught me, wound up becoming the second having the second most sales in British Columbia, Canada, and I only work half time. So the lesson is like, you know what, sometimes something shitty happens to you in business, and there's another opportunity that could actually make you better. And like I believe that sales is the foundation for most business. If you don't know how sales skills, it's hard to have an agency. It's hard to sell people digitally because you don't understand how like the transactional psychology happens in somebody's head. So that's a really long-winded way to say, like, man, I literally had a bad day. Like on Friday, I was having like the worst mental health day I've had in years. And so like, it happens to everybody, you know, it doesn't matter whether you're working or not, or go to school or not. Like, don't believe the 10x hustle BS that some people want to feed
Oh,
you.
every day is gonna be great. You're gonna be making
Yeah.
7 figures, and it's so easy.
And the thing is, it does get easier, but it's not easy day one. And you have to fall to learn where, you know, how to avoid falling next time, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, that's really, really good advice. So our final question for you before we move on into the bot build, because we know that Tru Earth is mid 8 figures. Do you have any advice for 3 buckets of ecom owners? The first bucket being under $1 million, the second being 1 to 10, and then the third being 10 million and up.
Sure. Yeah. Advice that I have for people that are like, so what was the first bucket? 0 to 1 or 0 to 10?
0 to 1.
0 to 1 is, you know, find a marketing system that like a flywheel that you can repeatedly do and generate sales from. Like if you're completely dependent on you know, getting a 10 times ROAS on Facebook in order to stay functioning, you're probably going to struggle. Like figure out 1 to 2 channels that you can consistently put resources in and get resources out, whether that's human resources or that's capital or that's technology. For the people like in the $1 to $10 million range, you just have to keep it simple. You have to understand your math becomes a lot more important, because in order to scale, typically your front end profits are going to decrease, and you're going to have to start focusing on retention and your lifetime value and second and third, you know, sales. If it's a consumer good product that you sell multiple times, that's easier. If you have something that's like a camera or a cup or something that you need to find high affinity products that go along with it. The biggest issue that I see with people in that space is that they're chasing shiny things. They're chasing acquisition channels. They're splitting up their resources, the human resources specifically, in such a way that they don't have the time to evaluate what they've done, iterate, and do the process better. Instead, they're chasing so many things and they're doing everything half-assed at the expense of the thing that originally got them over that $1 million mark. And I think that's like, it's a bad mindset. You should figure out what you need to do and maximize the 1 to 2 channels. I think most businesses can probably get to 10 million, provided they have a large enough total addressable market with just Facebook and Google, maybe TikTok. And then when you get to that $10 million mark, you know, things start to get more corporate. Building out your systems are going to have to change, and it becomes more about systems. And then if it's a D2C, if it's like an e-commerce brand, like starting to look at like other channels, like can we get in marketplaces? Can we get into small retail? Can we get into medium, large retail? Where can we go? Where does our market buy, or where does our avatar buy this category of product? Like for laundry detergent, 80% of people buy laundry at the grocery store. So it's fantastic that you're D2C, but you're missing out on, you know, 80% of the market by not being available where that product is purchased. So those are kind of the big things. You know, I personally specialize, like we're much bigger than 10 million, but like I think the hardest part for most people is to get from 1 to 10 million. And that's kind of like the area that I feel like I've come a long way in, and understanding the patterns and problems that people kind of go through. And usually a lot of it's up in your head.
No, I think those are really, really good points. I really like the part where you talked about understanding where your ideal customer purchases at, because for an e-com brand, the first answer they're gonna give is, well, everybody's online, right? So I can just have it online. But like understanding like which part of retail to place your products in, I think that's a really good advice.
Yeah, there's like, like one of the things that made me start thinking about that was there's one of the cell phone, like one of the companies that makes accessories for cell phones. I can't remember what their name is right now, but I read some article last year, the year before, that was saying that like they've made like, they're doing like some crazy number, like $500 million a year, or billions. And their growth model was literally getting into every marketplace. So like, like Newegg and Best Buy and Amazon and eBay and Etsy. And like, there's like, there might be like three, like, the 80-20 of it might be like three of them, but like, there's like 1,000 of these little marketplaces that exist. And, once you pass those three big scale, like what's your strategy after that? And I think for them, it was like, go after every marketplace. And then when you shoot your ads out into the world, sure, they might not be coming and necessarily buying directly from you, but everywhere they go, they're going to see your stuff.
No, that's really, really smart. Well, thank you for answering the questions, Ryan. We are going to move on into the bot build segment. So Tyler's going to be pulling up his screen here. And I remember you talked about that every one of your customers, they use detergent at a different rate. So the flow that we're going to be building is basically a Instagram flow that walks the customers through a couple of questions to understand how their washing cycle looks like. And then we would be able to push them a link at the end of the flow to basically offer them a plan that would make sense along their purchase cycle.
Okay, so I'll start off the kind of building process. I like to kind of folderize things and name all my flows. So I'll start a new folder here, and Sean already said we're doing an Instagram flow, so I usually just call it IG, and we're doing a quiz kind of funnel flow, and then I'll just say folder. And I like to emoji the start too. It's not actually necessary. What I'll end up doing here is I'll just go on like an emoji kind of site, and I'll try kind of type in stuff to see what makes the most sense. Maybe a fire. Okay, we'll use that one. And I'll just put it in at the start. It just kind of helps me know what things are, keeps things a little organized. So the next thing we want to do, I got a folder, we're going to make the starting flow. So I say from scratch. And this is kind of what is known as flow builder. There's basic builder too, which would look like this. By far the worst way to build is basic builder. So if you see it like this, you always want to go into flow builder. So that way you can see kind of your map and your layout. It's like a sandbox essentially. And it's all node based, meaning you can see like the direction people would go into. In our case, we're doing Instagram. So we're going to start with that. And we're going to name this first message. Okay. Now this is where we would maybe come in with an intro saying, thanks for showing interest.
I actually saw a pretty cool tool yesterday for building like emojis and icons with AI. I didn't actually try it out, but the first time when you showed me that, I was like, oh man, that's so cool. Like if you could like be able to tell AI what you wanted for an emoji and it can just spit it out.
Do you remember the name of it? Because it sounds pretty dope.
I don't. I know it was in a tweet by the guy that Zach something or other that runs the SaaS called Foreplay, which is not a dirty
thing,
but
right. The first time I saw that, I was like, huh.
Change the name of it. It used to be called something else.
Yeah, right.
Like Foreplays for I'll stop talking in a sec, but Foreplays for competitors' ads and using it for inspiration.
Right.
Okay, so the scripts aren't crazy important right here. Like obviously we might want to change it later on, but right now I just kind of got something basic here. And then what we're going to do is when they click the get started button, then we'll kind of start this kind of quiz. So there's a couple of different ways you can add nodes here. Like you can either add it through the plus mark right here and then say like, okay, we need an Instagram one, or we need actions or conditions or randomizer. Or you can kind of click this, drag it into the sandbox, click it, and then you'll have your host of actions here. Either way is proper to do it. Like I could do it from here and then connect it like this, or I could have just dragged and dropped and then connected it like that. Both really do the exact same thing. So there's no wrong way of doing it.
Right, and
So
there are multiple ways that a customer can come into this flow. So if you want to run ads into this, it's no problem at all. But if you want to have a Instagram keyword, maybe you want to put up a post saying like, hey, not sure what the optimal week is to replenish your laundry detergent, just DM us a specific keyword and we will walk you through the process. That's possible as well. You also can be running it through an Instagram story. I know that you guys have 100,000 followers, so that's probably going to get a ton of eyeballs as well as a ton of entries as well.
So you have some options to
Yeah,
kind of get people in.
Yeah, I think I'd probably be like, not sure, like, or let us help you build the perfect schedule for getting your cleaning supplies delivered, or never be out of cleaning supplies again, or whatever, you know, something along those lines. But yeah.
So we have a couple different ways people can kind of enter in this flow. So for now, we'll leave that kind of empty. We'll think about that maybe later on. But yeah, so there's some options you guys have in terms of when people can come in. And again, I like to, so every node actually has like a name, and people won't see this. So like the user itself won't see the node name right here. This is only for like admins that can see the backend in Flow Builder. And I like naming all of these. I usually name them like whatever. So I'll just do quiz question 1. Of course, I could have named it something different, but that's just the name I'm giving it here. And now we have quite a few different options. This time, we don't want just a normal text here. We actually want a user input. And that's because we're going to be asking them a question. So I'm going to remove this kind of normal text block right here.
You want me to tell you what the first question is?
Sure. We can kind of just punch that in. I will give it a custom field.
How many loads of laundry does your family do? You or your family do per week?
Okay.
Or does household probably better than family? LOADS.
Oh,
missed an A there.
I forgot the A. Okay. Loads of laundry does
your household. I would put household because I forgot that some people probably single people.
How many of those laundry does your household? Okay, we got family.
Do per week.
I don't know what I'm doing. A week. Okay, so let's capitalize the start here. All right, so that's kind of our first question. Again, we can always change the text later if we don't like it. And what's going to happen here is essentially, like I said, it's a user input, and the reply type is text, meaning the user will type something in. It could be whatever they want to say. We could even limit that by certain things here, but we're going to give it text, so it's open box for them to type in whatever they want to type in. We could even say it's a number, so that would force them to type in a number and not just random thing.
I think multiple choice would probably be best. I think multiple choice is probably best for this one. Yeah, because we can probably put like a number and then like because I think like a lot of people don't like I'll just use laundry as an example. Like people like when I tell people that the average household a family of 4 does around 7 loads a week, they're like that's crazy. But they don't think about the fact that they do, like, you know, they wash their sheets on the weekend and there's towels, and then it's like what I was gonna say is like I would probably put like one. I'd probably group them in little
like okay, so like maybe
chunks, like 1 to 2, 3 to 4.
Okay.
5 to 4 to 5, and then like 6 to 7, and then like 7 to 10.
Okay. 8 to 10. All right, and then we get rid of these other options here.
And yeah, I think things that we could probably test afterwards would be like putting in brackets like single person, family of 2, family of 4.
That could maybe be like a question we ask at the start, right? Like how many people are in your household, and then how many times do you do it?
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, we'll leave it as is, but I'm just saying we could rearrange the way the questions are, and then based on maybe question 1, we give them a different question 2. So if let's say they answered 1 to 2, you might think, okay, well, this is probably somebody that's alone. Okay.
So another thing that we could do is, Tyler, if you pull up the message note for me.
Sure, this one.
You'll see that they say that the user input expires in 23 hours. Typically, we have anywhere from 1 to 2 follow-ups because people get busy, people fall off. So what we could do is we could also change that user input to expire within 3 to 10 minutes, and then we can follow up with them after that period of time, saying like, hey, you can go ahead and answer the question. Of course, like right now, it looks like the copy is really scrappy because we're just going to show you the high-level overview, but this is how we typically build our bots. Yeah.
Cool.
And you'd even want to remove this skip button so that way they can't skip the answer or they can't skip the question.
That's a good idea.
So we'll remove that. And if any, like, let's say they type in something, this is the text that'll come up saying like, hey, this was an incorrect option.
Got it.
But here, this is what Sean was saying is like, if they don't answer within this time period, which is the 10 minutes, then you can make it so it goes somewhere else. So you can have a follow-up kind of message saying like, hey, hopefully we're not bothering you, or something along those lines. Follow up question. Follow up question 1. So we would just type in kind of our follow-up saying like,
yeah, we can just
more or less the same thing. Well, yeah, we'll leave it be for now, but like I'm just kind of show you guys as an example here. So let's carry on with kind of the next question. Now, instead of essentially doing all this over again, like creating another node, just to save time, what I'll do is I'll hover over this one, and you can click this kind of duplicate button, and it'll duplicate it. So that way we've saved a little bit of time. You can also, if you needed to do it in bulk, you can hold Shift and then drag in the sandbox, click and drag, and now I could duplicate everything. Right, Control V, then Control C, or Control C, then V, and then you've duplicated it all. In my case, I just want 1 here, so I don't actually need the starting message. I just want this one. So I will duplicate it and then put it right here.
So the next question is, how many loads of dishes do you do per week?
Okay.
The idea here is that we want to be able to customize a subscription bundle for a family, but because it's one thing to get somebody's laundry on the right frequency, but they might not wash the dishes as much as they wash their laundry. So how do you build a subscription that gets them all their stuff in the right amounts?
Okay.
I like that you don't assume because they use X number of washers for laundry, they would use X number of dishes for the dishes.
Yeah, I think I mean, it really depends on how many people. Like if you have more people in your family, like we pretty much run the dishes. I have 3 kids and we pretty much run the dishes like every day or every second day at the absolutely. So I would probably put this one like a little bit more. I guess it's pretty much the same. Actually, yeah, it just needs to be dishes, and then yeah, just leave it like I think that's probably good because it's probably the same, really. And then the last question.
Could remove this option because I don't think people are going to be doing it more than once a day. Like even I probably do it let's say once a day, maybe every other day. So we could probably delete this one, I think, just to have less options.
The only people like I don't know if you guys know Brett Curry, but from OMG Commerce, they do like they're an agency, but he has 8 kids. So I'm like, I
Hey,
okay, so
kids.
guarantee, yeah, I
he does it a lot. Okay, I'll
guarantee
leave it on.
that dishwasher is probably run after every meal. You know, it's probably like run after breakfast. It's probably run after lunch. It's probably run after dinner.
Wow. Okay.
Kudos to them for juggling all that work.
Yeah.
Man, I cannot imagine.
All right. So let me just explain a little bit of what I did here, because while you guys were talking, I was doing some stuff in the back end here, and I had to create a new custom field. So the reason why you don't want the same custom field from question 1 to question 2 is because what it'll do is it'll replace the value from question 1 into question 2. So then you won't have the value from question 1. So that's why you need to make unique values, so that way they can store both values. So if, say, for somebody comes through this one, they say once or twice a week, and then here they want to say 3 to 4 times, then it'll have those two kind of fields in both unique
Those are
fields.
that's basically like the variable name, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're going to go with the
Cool.
next one. So I just did the exact same thing, duplicate, connect it, and
So
I'll change it
this,
to
yeah,
question.
this question is going to be tied to the bathrooms now. So I think we should say, how many bathrooms do you have in your house? And then there'll be a follow-up question that says most people clean each bathroom in their house once per week. Is this so if you have, or I'm trying to think how you'd write this. Most people clean. So if you ask them how many bathrooms, what would the follow-up question be like? Most people clean their bathrooms once per week. How many? Actually, this gets complicated, doesn't it? Because we're layering.
Yeah, we're kind of
Like,
assuming.
I think we don't have that as a follow-up. We just have that as like a footer note. Like most people
yeah.
clean their bathroom once a week.
Okay. Maybe we don't need parentheses. Okay, so we'll leave it as is. Obviously, we can kind of think about it a little bit more diligently,
Yeah.
but not to waste time. So I'm going to make a new custom field just so that way this value is stored somewhere else. So what all I did is, like, I would remove the 2 here, and then I add a 3, and then it says new user field. That's what they call it. They also call it custom fields. So like there's the user field, custom field, they're literally both the same thing within ManyChat. And in the type here, I didn't really go into anything kind of examples here, but I'll try to just describe this slightly. Text is basically everything. So you can type in numbers, you can type in text, it'll sort that. Numbers is just numbers, no letters included. Date is just like a date, like a physical day. And then date and time, that's date plus the time. And then true or false, that's binary, true or false. And then array is like a bunch of different values. So it can store multiple different things. This is pretty good for like tracking like a bunch of different order numbers, for example. So we're going to use text, and then you can usually give it a description, but just for time, I'm not going to do that. But usually I would. So we're going to save. And now for options, what do you think? Do you think we should just do?
I think this one's probably a little bit more specific, because if somebody says they have two, this one we probably want to put like 1 through 7 plus.
Okay. So what we'll do here is
Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like, just because, like, if you have, if we say like, 4 to 5, and they choose that, and they actually have 4, and then we send them 3 months supply for 5, they're gonna have, that's 12 weeks. That's good. They're gonna have by the end of that 12 weeks, they're gonna have an additional 12. Like, they're gonna have like a full extra pack of the product kicking around. So yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
And Ryan would probably select the 7+ option.
Maybe we honestly, we actively use 3 bathrooms in this house, maybe 4, if you include, I have like a suite for my office.
Okay. So now then, what we're going to do is we'll say the thank you message, and we'll say our what do we want to call this quiz? Like our cleaning quiz? maybe?
Yeah, thanks for taking our cleaning quiz.
Here. I'm thinking of basically regurgitating their questions out to them, like their answers.
Sure.
So saying like,
Cool.
these are your questions, these are your answers. Would you like to change your mind on any one of them? And then they could go back and change it. If they say no, then it would continue on to the next kind of like, okay, now that we know these, like you've locked in your answers.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking anyways. Okay, so we'll go with that.
Yeah. Here, I'd say here are your answers, and then yeah, and then we can say in the next one we can say this is what we would recommend for
Here are your answers.
Right. So on Twitter, I'm actually a big proponent of creating a mascot as well as a personality for your chatbot, such that it doesn't actually look and feel like a chatbot. So if you're wondering why the copy is a little bit scrappy from Tyler, Tyler typically does the building. I typically write the copy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'll do here, I'm just gonna try to kind of copy paste it a little quickly here. Now, what you're gonna do is to spit back the answer to them is you take the custom field value or the user field and you're going to put it literally inside here. So what you'll do is you click these little parentheses, like you have to have your cursor kind of here. You click these little parentheses right here, and then you'll type in the user field that you're going for. You can also start the parenthesis like this, like, but it has to be a squiggly line. It can't be like the normal one. I don't know what they're like called, but anyways, yeah, the squiggly line one, and then you would type in the one you're looking for. So squiggly line, type it in. I'll say 2. There we go. Whoops, I just copy pasted it normal. It should highlight in blue. That's when you know you've done it properly. And then there we go. So they might not have remembered the question. So I'm thinking, do we copy paste it? Loads of laundry, right? So just maybe do like a little parenthesis saying maybe loads of, oh, whoops, I copy pasted nothing there. I'm just trying to make this easier for myself. Just to like, it'll make sense when I do it. I think I'm not going to be able to explain it. A week.
I looked it up. It's called an opening curly brace.
An opening.
I've always just thought
okay.
it was. I always just called it a curly bracket, but
Right.
I'm like, I've been calling it a curly for a long time too. I actually had to ask ChatGPT. Google didn't have the answer for me, so ChatGPT knew.
It's actually insane what ChatGPT is able to do. Like it's downright scary.
Yeah.
Like the questions I've asked it.
I'm finding it's nuts.
Okay. I'm almost done with this kind of foolery here. Bathrooms.
Cool.
Do your kids use
definitely find myself
ChatGPT
asking
to
Google.
do school homework?
My neighbor's a teacher, and he said he's seen a few things come through that looked a little bit different than their standard voice. I love it though. Like there's so many things. Like I think there's a lot of people that are like, oh, how can I use this to build a bit? How can I use this to make like a software as a service? And I think that like that's probably a stupid way to use it because it's so easy to copy and replicate it. I think the best way to use ChatGPT right now is how do you use it to create efficiencies in your existing processes and your systems, like versus like, sure, you can make a quick buck selling somebody a tool, but these tools are going to be a dime a dozen quickly. So
yeah, no, it makes a ton of sense because I've heard of coders asking it to analyze their code, and then it just saves them so much time from trying to go back for a double loop.
Yeah,
it really helps.
Okay, so one of the things I'm kind of struggling with is I want to basically have a button that says changed my mind or something. Maybe that's what I'll do. Changed mind. And you have a character limits. So you see here 6, so I can't really like have like a full description like change on question 1. And with Instagram, you can have quick replies or you can have buttons. You can't have both. With Messenger, you can have both. And you can only have 3 buttons. You can have many quick replies. So that might be the best option for us. Because that way we can do like change question 1. But maybe I don't know if I have enough characters. Let's find out. Change
If there's only 3 though, how do they continue on from this point? If we have
So
change.
with quick replies, you can do more than 3 options. You can do a whole bunch of them.
Got it.
But the way it looks on your phone is a little silly because you have to like, you'll see the text block and then you have to scroll to the side to get the other answers. So if you have like big text like this, it'll sort of like change question 1, change question 2, and then you might not be able to see change question 3. So this one here, instead of saying change question 3, saying like, yep, it looks good, or something along those lines. That way it continues the flow. But like I said, we can't have buttons, but I think quick replies is the way to go here, just because we can have more options. So I think what I'll do is I'll say change question 1, change question 2. Of course, it didn't paste in properly. Question 2. And then I'll do change question 3.
No, that should be 3, no? Because you already have 3 bubbles.
I know, I know the top looks a little confusing, but this one isn't going to be change question 1. This one is going to be looks good or something like that. The reason why I'm putting this one is because like this is them locking in their answer, saying like that's what I want. We could change whatever looks good to something else, or we can describe like click looks good if you are satisfied with your answers. So I'll leave that be for now. I'll kind of clean this up a little bit later. What I'm going to do next is I want to make it so if they say change question 1, it doesn't ask them all the questions again, because that'll be kind of annoying. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to shift, click, scroll over this, and then I'm going to go Control C, Control V, which is going to paste in everything. Okay. And then what I'll do is, just for organization purposes, I'm actually going to push this over here. And I'm going to push this one down, this one down. I know it's looking a little funky right now, so just bear with me a little bit. And I'm just deleting the little next step. So this one is going to be linked to this. Then number 2 is going to be linked to number 2. Number 3 is going to be linked to number 3. And then once they answer the question, which again, we could maybe alter it just a little bit so it doesn't sound like the exact same thing they went through. But regardless of that, we're just going to go this right back into here. And then this right back into there. And then this right back into there. So what that'll do is when they click change question 1, it'll go back to question 1. They'll get their options, they'll answer it, and then they'll go right back into this saying like, hey, are you satisfied with your questions? So if they want to rechange, let's say question 2 afterwards, they could do that. So that we've kind of fixed this option. So now they can come back and they could change their answer if they really wanted to. Now let's kind of clean up this looks good one.
So Ryan, question for you. When they click on looks good, do you want there to be an email grab? That way you can build up the email list as well. Like you can send them the results on email and as well as ManyChat.
Some misspelling is hard.
Yeah, I mean, sure. We can say like, would you like me to email you?
Right.
With our answers.
Do most people put an email capture then? And like the only thing that I'm cognizant of is that some people don't like, they might not want to give their email to get the results. So would we put an option to skip it, or would we force that?
Well, we typically have a good 60 to 80% email opt-in rate, as long as like the copy makes sense. So what we can do is we can A/B test it. Like Tyler, if you put it into a randomizer and 50-50 it, one with a message node collecting the email and one without. And then we can, once we run enough traffic through it, we'll be able to tell like, is the email a good idea?
So where do you want to do this at the start or
No,
at the end of the
at the end. So for looks good, we map it into the randomizer and then 50-50 to collect email and not collect email.
Great. So there's 2 ways to do like kind of randomizers or actions or anything. So like I said, you can either click the sandbox, and then you type in randomizer, or you just click it, or you can create one here and then plumb it in like so. by just clicking into it like that. Now what a randomizer will do, and you can have like multiple things. So you can have like a bunch of different options here. So one in our case will be maybe going to email, and then the other one will go just to
Straight to results.
straight to the results. And then we can even have a third one if we really wanted to, and maybe a fourth, and so on. So you can have like multiple different things. When you're using Instagram, this is a good thing to note. You don't capture their first and last name. So like what we could do too is like, and again, I'll just do a little bit of it, but I don't know if I'll fully finish it. We could have when they click get started, we have a randomizer that then goes into saying like, what is your first name? So I'll just say first name, just for simplicity's sake, first name, question mark. And then the reply type will be name. And then this is different. This is a system field. The difference between a user field and a system field is that the system will take that into account. So if you go into your contacts, there are custom fields and then system fields. System fields are like name, email. Email can be stored in a custom field though as well. So the system fields are like things that are like kind of ManyChat has them by default essentially. So you don't have to create the custom fields each time. So now that we have the first name here, we'll also, okay. All right, so I'll just kind of finalize this just for example's sake, but we can remove it at the end. So 50% will go into the last name and first name asking, and then the other 50% will just go straight to the quiz funnel. So that's another example of using the randomizer here. Okay, so you said we want to capture email next, so let's do this one. Will be capturing email. Is email to reach that, and then
Or probably be better if you say like, what's the best email to send you the results? What email should I send you your results to?
Yeah.
And again, like it's going to capture it into a system field here. You can see that. And then this one here will just be the results. So we can actually push this one over here. Now, I know I'm not naming the nodes right now just because we're on a little bit time sensitive, but normally I would. So here we're going to say, what do you guys want to say for the results? I'm actually.
Your results are
probably in. Yeah, like here's what we would recommend.
Okay. So this one here would obviously, okay, here's. Jesus. Okay. Typing is not going so well.
I'm the worst typer in the history of the world, so don't feel bad.
Okay, I don't know. I've got you top or second at least. Here's what we recommend, and then like I said, I don't know what we could do here. This is what I would normally do, and of course I'm not going to be able to do it in this video just because it would take some time. Is I would connect this to a bot sheet, and essentially what that means is that it would be connected to a Google spreadsheet. And then there would be all these little results here. And then based on the results they give, it gives out recommendations. And the reason why I needed to have it connected to a bot sheet, a Google spreadsheet, is that it can pick out from a variety of different answers because every answer is like exponential. So if they pick 2 to 3, and then they pick like 3 to 4, and then they pick 7 plus, that has to be a different answer than say 5 to 7 to 10 to or 8 to 10 and so on. So it's basically 4 multiplied by 4 multiplied by 7. And that's the amount of results you can get. But when you have it tied to a spreadsheet, it aggregates all those different answers. And then you can basically deliver that in a nicely kind of format instead of like trying to make it so like you have all these conditions and like, oh, if it's like this, then go here. Because this right here, the way it's working, it's technically wouldn't function perfectly because here's your recommendations is like no matter what the recommendations are going to be the same no matter what they answer.
Right.
That's why you would need to have it connected.
You're basically suggesting we do like a lookup to a spreadsheet.
That's correct, yes, because in that spreadsheet you can give out all the recommendations that you would like, and then it could display it in a carousel, which is basically I could try to show you a little bit of what a carousel would look like. Actually, I could just go here, and they call it gallery carousels, same thing. but it's basically like an image. So you can have the product image, then you can have the title of the image, you can even have a subtitle, and then a button to go to that thing, and then you can have multiple of those. So like it can recommend multiple different products. And that, like I said, that would all be controlled through kind of a spreadsheet, if you will, that would dynamically give the results back based on the answers that they have given. So I know that this isn't like perfect because it's like, well, you're leaving half the prize here or half the puzzle undone, but unfortunately that would take quite a bit of time. Plus we'd have to connect the account to a Google spreadsheet, which we do not have yet. I checked earlier, and the way you can check if you don't have admin permissions is you would just create an action block, and then you would click into actions, and you scrolled all the way down, or damn near close to all the way down, and right around here somewhere, you would see a Google action. And I don't have that option, meaning it's not connected to a Google account. We can go into
So
connecting that at a later date.
I would have to connect it on the back end kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Well, we can talk about that
After
how
the
to go
call.
through
Yeah.
after the call for sure. That's super cool. So basically they're going to go through this flow. At the end here, either we're going to capture their email and push it to Klaviyo. Does it push to Klaviyo like using Zapier, or is there a direct connection?
Mm-hmm.
It has to go through Zapier.
Okay, so we push it through Zapier.
You can actually have it connected straight to Klaviyo, actually.
Oh, cool.
Like
Okay.
there's a, like, I don't have admin permissions, but if you go into your settings, yeah, you could figure it out from there.
Okay, cool. And then what would happen? What would happen if we had the Google Sheet set up is that it would look at the different results. We'd have a VLOOKUP type setup inside of the Google Sheet with the different outcomes, and then it would pull the specific outcome. So would it pull the text and a link from the sheet and then output it in the results?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we have a video actually like on the YouTube channel that goes over it. Like we did it with a Netflix movie recommender. Like we just pretend like we're working for Netflix, which wasn't the case, but we did a movie recommender. So you would type in the different genres and things you're looking for, and then it would spit out a bunch of movie recommendations.
Cool.
It's the same thing here, but instead of movies, you're recommending products. It's more or less the concept is the same.
Cool. Yeah, this is super cool. I'm stoked to actually run some traffic to it once we get the last two steps set up and
Yeah, it definitely looks super basic right now, but Tyler and I are going to go in after this call to clean up the copy. We are also going to have the follow-up sequences. We can have bot sheets connected, as well as some more conditional logic that we can throw in. But otherwise, this is a rough idea of how you guys would be able to build out a bot. I feel like a lot of e-com brands neglect bots simply because it used to be the new shiny object about 4 years ago. It was like the new email killer, and then it just sort of fell off after marketers spammed the living hell out of their customers. We're definitely seeing a bit of a resurgence. But once again, thank you so much for your time, Ryan. We really, really appreciate you. Thank you for being guest number one.
I appreciate you guys having me on and for going through this process with me. It's been fun.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good to hear.
We'll catch you guys on the next one. So we're back with the new and improved version of the flow, and we thought we would walk you guys through our entire thought process. So at the very start of the flow, how we're going to be triggering this, according to Ryan, is basically through a Instagram comment. And this Instagram comment could be hooked up to either a post or a reel, but you would basically get your customers to comment, and then this flow would start. So the first message is, hey there, unsure how many laundry strips you'll need? We'll help you figure that out with these 3 simple questions. And you can see that it actually goes into a randomizer. And the reason why we have that randomizer is because we want to A/B test between collecting email and not collecting email. So 50% of the traffic are going to get their first name pulled and collecting their email, and then their results are going to be dispersed by email. and 50% of the traffic is going to have their results dispersed immediately through Instagram. And we're just A/B testing between the two, because if we can build an email list, why not? So the next block that you see is actually a conditional logic block, where it checks to see if the custom fields have any value. And the reason why we do this is in the event the customer falls off and restarts the quiz again, we don't want them to go through the entire process if they have already completed part of the questions. And this just makes your customers irritated, and that's why we put it there. So you can see for each of the questions, we have follow-ups. And this is in case the customer just doesn't respond. We have 2 follow-ups, 5 minutes and 15 minutes. You see a conditional logic block there. Doesn't really make sense right now, but it makes sense in 2 minutes. But basically what's happening here is in 5 minutes, if the customer doesn't respond, or if in 15 minutes, we follow up with them, right? And below the 5-minute follow-up, we actually have a tag action that says follow-up done. The reason why we do this is because we don't want to be following up with the customers on all 3 questions. And I know there's going to be argument against this, like, hey, you can just don't care. Just follow up on every single question if they don't respond. But I'm personally optimizing for user experience over conversion rate here. And that's why we have the conditional logic block to see, like, if we have followed up on question 1, don't follow up on question 2 and 3. So moving into the right, after the 3 questions are done, we ask them if these answers look good. If they do, then they're going to click on looks good. Otherwise, we give them an option to change either question 1, 2, or 3. And after clicking on looks good, we check to see if their first name has any value. If they have value, then that's the traffic that we want to be pulling their email and giving their email results to. If they don't, we are going to be giving the results directly within Instagram. And you can see that on the right, there is this action block that says the placeholder action. The reason why we have that is because we don't have bot sheets connected right now, but based on their responses, we are going to be dynamically pulling results from bot sheets and giving them the respective product to purchase. And at the bottom, you can see the buy now button is connected to a tag. And this is essentially allows us to segment our users based on what they purchase, so that we know what relevant promotions we are going to be sending them. And that's about it. So this is about 70% done. There's still more work that needs to be done, but hope that you've gotten value out of this. And if you have any questions at all, you know where to find us.